Well, on Thursday of this week, we had a speaker from Tufts Medical University. He is a public health doctor. His name is Dr. Michael Bradley Siegel. Has anybody heard of him? No, you haven't. Not many people have, but his work is groundbreaking because he studies how to reduce gun violence by finding common ground between gun owners and non-gun owners. He has a long history of trying to solve public health issues. He worked on the anti-smoking campaign for 10 years of his life until the Sandy Hook shooting happened. At that point, he grew up in Danbury, and at that point, he decided he would change his focus from smoking to reducing deaths by guns. And he has spent the last 11 years or so doing research, something which the CDC had been forbidden to do up until 2 years ago, and that is to find out what the causes are of gun deaths and how to prevent them. With his meager budget, he was able to find common ground between gun owners and non-gun owners, and has come up with a 4-point plan. And you say, well, what is the difference between his plan and then the 10-point plan of stopping violence, the 12-point plan of preventing drug addiction? All of these things are true, but his is research-based. And he has spent years interviewing gun owners, non-gun owners, thousands of people, thousands. And he's come up with to buy in. 1, close the violent misdemeanor loophole. I don't know how many people recognize that a felony, know that a felony is the only thing that prevents a person from owning a gun. If you're convicted of a felony, you could be a white-collar criminal and have embezzled money, but if it's a felony, you can't buy a gun. But if you take your gun out of your house and you threaten somebody in your neighborhood because their dog is running on your lawn, that's a misdemeanor. And you could buy as many guns as you want. So the recommendation is to make misdemeanor offenses for violence, make that prohibitive of buying a gun. The second is to pass state-level gun permit laws. You know, there are only 9 states in the country that have permitting requirements. There are 41 that let you walk in to a store and say, I want a gun, and you get the gun. So, fortunately, Connecticut has a state permit requirement. We're one of the few. We need to make that national, statewide. Oh, as a carrot for gun owners, make the permit so rigorous that you don't need to go through a background check when you buy your second gun after your first or your third, but make the permit renewable every 5 years. You need to have that background check done again to see if you are prohibited from getting a weapon. Makes sense. And that brought gun owners on board. So far, there are 2 things that gun owners support. Third, enact red flag laws with due process protections. What that means is if you are prone to violence or suicide, this matches up with what Rick was talking about, or suicide, allow the state to take your weapon away and then have a hearing within a reasonable amount of time to see if you can get your weapon back or if it needs to be a more permanent removal. Connecticut has that law, and it has reduced suicides, according to Dr. Siegel, by 16%. And then finally, implement state and federal background checks and make those checks, along with state permitting, so rigorous that you could trust that people can keep a weapon for 5 years before you have to renew that search. So what that talk of his did for me was to say, we need to find common ground, and I have to stop pushing away, personally, those people who own guns and close my ears and go, la, 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 when they talk. Listen, have a conversation, and when they're brought in, we'll find that we have common ground and can actually solve the problem. He's optimistic, and so am I. Thank you.